And as people come in, we will admit them in. So hi everyone, my name is Babatunde Oladosu, and I am so happy to welcome you to another edition of this program. So in terms of the rule of the run of the day, I would just sort of run through what we're going to be doing. Then we can just quickly start speaking to the panelists, because I just feel like there's so much to talk about today, and we have such wealth of experience in this room, and the earlier we can get to them, the better. So very briefly, I'll speak about the program. I'll speak about EduBridge Academy, then I'll speak about Beyond the Classroom 2.0. So we had one earlier. So in a nutshell, EduBridge does EduBridge sort of equips people for the. Can I have? Okay, I think I can. I'm gonna ask everyone to try to mute themselves so that we don't have disruptions in the program. So I'm gonna encourage everybody, just double check that your mute button is working. So I was speaking about EduBridge briefly. EduBridge Academy is basically focused on helping. I think we might have to mute this person. So can I have somebody on my team just mute them? Okay, good. Thank you so much. So I was talking about EduBridge in terms of we help people, both working professionals, fresh graduates, and undergraduates, go through some of the transformations that they really need to get into the workplace. So if you sort of see yourself, today we're talking about tech and banking, which is a topic that is kind of dear to my heart. But if you sort of see yourself as someone who's going to be getting into the workplace and sort of thinking of the type of transformation, it could be skills, it could be perspective. We talk about skills a lot. But I sort of think that there's a big mental shift or mindset shift that people need to have, not just to get into the workplace. I don't think getting into the workplace is a prize enough in terms of what I think. I think it's excelling there, doing something where people will be like, where did you come from? That is sort of what we think about in EduBridge. And if you think of yourself or your sibling or your younger one or your, I don't know, your child, because I can see people who have children on this call as well, who should be thinking of EduBridge. So if you're in school, start thinking, how do I make that shift to work? If you are currently working, you're like, I sort of like what I'm doing, but Ed works at Cowrywise, and is going to be hiring, and Aya works at Optimus and Afro-Invest. Maybe it's going to hire Onyeka as well.
I'm thinking they get up here. Idan muka gama wannan thinking, sai ka hada da loan kuma.
Can I have?
Ya gama thinking. Sai mu koma loan.
Hey.
Kaji?
Anyways, can we have people mute?
Babatunde, you're muted.
Okay, yes, thank you. So I lost my train of thought. Okay.
Irrespective of where you are, whether you are a new graduate, whether you're currently working, EduBridge helps.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much, Edward. Now, we're going to be talking about Beyond the Classroom as well. So this is the second installment of the program. The first program was, we had something that was also really interesting for the first one. I'm going to encourage you we'll talk about that in a minute as well. So I'm going to encourage you to get like a recording if it was something you didn't have an opportunity to witness or to watch. Now we will go very, very quickly into introductions of our panelists. I'm trying to get as much as time. I have so many questions for them, so I want us to start as quickly as possible. I'm going to start with the introduction of my panelists. So today we're doing tech versus banking. If you had asked me this thing 10 years ago, I would have known my answer. Today I don't. So before this call, I had an opportunity to look at the Fortune 500 list. I mean, I looked at market capitalization first. Like if you look at technology, and what I just saw was all the trillion-dollar stocks were tech companies, NVIDIA, Apple, Microsoft, Google, and the team pay me. I was like, because I was like, this thing is paying me. Then I also went so that was one end in terms of all the biggest growth companies right now. In fact, there are controversies around how tech is driving the entire S&P and NASDAQ, and if you like finance and all those stock exchanges. But on the other end, I also look at finance, and I saw that only BlackRock, its asset under management is equal to the GDP of China. It means that one company, BlackRock in the US, has investment power that is equal in terms of investment flows that is almost at parity with China, and that's there's Fidelity, there's Vanguard. There are three of them. The three of them is like the economy of US already. I was like, okay, if technology and science comes up with innovation, finance seems to come up with the distributive or the absorptive power. So that's a very good split in terms of what we have today. So, and I don't think I can get a better panel to discuss it. So I'll start from who would I start with? I think I'm going to start with someone. I'm going to talk about them, then I'm going to have them introduce themselves. So I have like anecdotes for almost everybody. One of the boldness, in terms of the boldness to leave work and start EduBridge, came one day when somebody called me when I was at PwC, and she was just like, Babatunde, I think I want to. She has studied economics, and she was like, I want to do digital marketing, and I really want to do EduBridge. And if I was doubting myself that maybe there was a market for EduBridge or not, it was Florence's call that gave me the opportunity to think, and some other people as well that was like, okay, maybe if we do this thing, maybe we will not go hungry, maybe we're going to have some money. So she works for tech right now, so I'm doing tech banking. So I'll start from Florence. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself in 1 or 2 minutes? Florence, you're muted. Do we have to unmute you? Oh my God. I think I have to get my host power back so that I can do. Can I have someone? Okay, so I'm going to unmute you now. Just give me 1 minute.
I think I'm on muted now.
Okay, go on, yeah.
Oh, wow. Hi everyone. My name is Florence, and I'm a senior product designer with over 8 years of experience in UX UI design, developing design systems and strategizing design approaches. My journey began with a bachelor's degree in economics, as Babatunde rightly said, and from the University of Lagos, and I transitioned into product design, where I have excelled. I would say I've excelled as a solo designer and also working collaboratively with the tech team in various companies. I currently lead the building and implementation of design system at Shopware. So Shopware is an auto repair company in the US. And prior to Shopware, I've had the privilege of working with brilliant businesses and brands like Polywork, Nestcoin, Carbon, To Notes, Amplified Payments, and a lot more. I'm passionate about delivering high quality work that drives business success, which I'm sure we're going to talk about the mix of fintech, and we're going to talk about mix of fintech here. I'm a continuous learner, which I'm sure we're going to also get a snippet into that once we start chatting today. And I'm always seeking new horizons to expand my knowledge and insight. So yeah, Babatunde, thank you for this opportunity again. And also thanks to the EduBridge team for the opportunity to come and share 1 or 2 things with everyone here. So I'm really excited to be here.
Thank you, Florence. Then I'm going to speak. I think Onyeka is the only one I've not met, but I started following you on LinkedIn, and you're always writing like some really cool financial stuff. I mean, I used to post on LinkedIn, and you wait for 3 days to get 200 views or 200 likes, but you post something 8 hours, and I see 1,000 likes. I'm like, what are you doing? What are you telling them? And I know you always give extremely astute financial literacy advice. So Onyeka, why don't you introduce yourself?
Thank you, Babatunde. Very funny on the LinkedIn stuff. All right, so I'm Onyeka Okonkwo. I currently work as a risk manager with KPMG UK. Before then, I used to work with Deloitte Nigeria as a risk manager. And before then, I used to work in audits and handled some finance for small and medium-sized enterprises. I have a BSc in economics, have an MBA, did some stints in data analytics sometime in the past, but not as a full-time job, just as an add-on to what I actually do, which is what I kind of think people should do a lot more. And I do financial literacy conversations too for businesses and especially for individuals. So I think everybody should be financially empowered with the right knowledge, because finance gives you choices. And it just helps you with wealth distribution, you know. Right. I'm a writer. I have a YouTube channel. I love to write because it's the one where I feel like I can share my experience with other people. And I like to write from a place of authenticity because people relate well with stories, which is kind of why you see the 1,000 likes. It just helps people know that, you know, where they are is where you have been to. So they're more likely to listen to what you're trying to tell them. Aside all of this, I do speaking engagements on finance, again, career-related stuff, and personal development. I am a lifelong learner. I believe we should always be learning, and there is no better way to improve yourself than exposing yourself to what's out there and just getting more knowledge generally. Right, thank you.
Thank you, Onyeka. In one of your posts, you mentioned that you like to make money, but you don't know how to spend it. So I was waiting for this event so that I can reach out to you and help you in terms of the spending part, if you don't mind. And okay, I'll move to tech again. And one of the, so I'm going to speak about tech now. So I feel like one of the things I enjoyed about going to, we used to like to wind ourselves in Ife, but one of the things I enjoyed about going to Obafemi University was meeting people that would just challenge you and just be like, where are you coming from? How are they doing it? And I remember in my first year, I don't know if you remember, Edward came to SIFE. I was a member of Student in Free Enterprise, and he had just won like digital, it was like IT ambassador of Nigeria or something like that. If you won, it was like a big prize. And me, I'm just like, even me, I'm not ambassador of my street in Lagos. How can you be ambassador of Nigeria? And it was just a big deal in terms of the opportunity to meet people who, before tech was a buzzword, were already doing a lot of really amazing things. So I was just surprised at the success that Cowrywise has had. So Edward, please, can you just unmute and introduce yourself?
Thank you. Thank you for those flattering words. I mean, you are learning to do it like the Americans. You are spending too much time in that country, eh? Okay. Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me. My name is Edward. I have a background in computer engineering from Ife. And then a couple of years ago, it's been 2007, 2008, thereabout. Then I joined InterSwitch after youth service. I worked there for a bit, and then I moved to telecoms, where I spent over 6 years thereabouts before the idea of starting Cowrywise came. And then since then, I've transitioned from being, you know, an employee to a business owner and managing technology rather than working inside technology. But then I think we'll still get to talk more about that later. But that's my life story in short, not as much as Onyeka's own. You know, when I grow up, I want to be like her. She has like 3 pages already. So yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much, Edward. And finally, okay, this is finance. Then I'm going to have Ayo introduce himself. Then I'll start my first question from Ayo. So we're going in that order. So what anecdotes can I remember about Ayo was, if there's something, I feel like Ayo runs his own personal EduBridge. This is my opportunity to pay all of you back for the good things you've done for me. And I remember that people who come into AfroInvest research, they'll probably, I mean, they can spell their name, but they can't do many things. And in 3 months' time, that person is going to be on CNBC speaking confidently. And you wonder, what just happened to this person? And Ayo did not do it one time. He did it. He made such a tradition of that. It's probably one of the best. It's one of the best man managers I've ever met. I don't know if you remember. There was a time come and ask me, like, I think you know politics very well. Come and write politics for us in macroeconomic updates. And I was like, no, I'm in investment banking. I was like, no, I think you're the best person to do this. Please write it for us. So those are things that you just sort of work with people, and you see the ability to identify talents and to groom it. So Ayo is the best. I would say it's the best. It's one of the best in that. I'm going to invite Ayo to unmute and introduce himself. Sorry, Ayo, I have to ask you to unmute. Sorry. Okay.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be here, and it's great to see each one of you. My name is Ayodeji. I'm an investment professional, and career-wise, started as an investment research analyst, or started from the investment research space for about 10 years before moving into investment banking, then moved to securities trading, then did asset management and retail sales, then currently also leading tech. So mine is like a man of, is it master of none? But at least I think I've picked one or two things as I just move around. And I'm also very passionate about financial literacy. And I try as much as possible to do my bit to fill in that gap. And that's why you see me once in a while talk about finance and also area-wise. So that's why I'm here. And it's great to be here. Thanks for the opportunity.
Okay, thank you, Ayo. I'm going to start with you as well, right? Because you did mention that you started on the research part and you've done securities, and now you head like a company at the intersection of finance and technology. So I'm going to start and ask you, maybe I'll start from the career part, right? So how has your career path equipped you to identify and capitalize on opportunities at the intersection of finance and technology?
Okay, thanks. Very interesting question that I get. I think I would say I'm thankful to God to start from investment research. That's like the bedrock. So that gave the ability for me to be able to build on the foundation. So it gives the flexibility. You know, when we talk about research, even if you say you're a banking sector analyst, as long as if you are able to build your skills in that sector, if you are moved to insurance tomorrow, you would also be able to build your skills if it's consumer goods. So like when banks come and lead a tech company from scratch, it's not like even we have to look at which language are we going to, so language are we going to use to build this platform? That's when I started learning about, is it PHP, is it Node.js, is it, to decide on what we should use. So you would see that I had to, because of that background of trying to research and the analytical mind, so you would also need to, that strong analytical mind really helped. So I was able to, the platform is to come and build a fintech platform. So the experience of that you have worked in research, you are now also engaging clients. You know, when you do research to a level, you now begin to convert it, like my group MD would say, say that's your research, come and use it to start making money. So you are talking to clients, engaging them. So you now begin to see what their needs are. You need to begin to understand how can you convince them with your report to take action. So that really made it flexible for me. So when I got into investment banking, it was because, yes, was modeling. You also needed that background to also be able to engage clients intelligently. And I would say that wherever you find yourself, if you see an opportunity, not everyone will start from research, right? So it's not, but if you see an opportunity for you to learn at the beginning of your career, it's really very critical. The rest is easier to be flexible. And when you see a place where you have the opportunity to learn, don't be too quick to jump to go and take money. So you would see sometimes in the industry that you see a 10-year analyst and you see a 2-year analyst. The 2-year analyst may have more knowledge than the 10-year analyst. The 10-year may be earning more, but with time, the 2-year analyst will earn a multiple. So there are researchers here, they say the multiple that the 2-year analyst will earn in the long run will be higher. So when you see that opportunity, take advantage of it to learn and be grounded first before you now begin to take other opportunities. So now that I'm into fintech, so if they are talking about, oh, do you want to build savings, you want to invest, because you understand how it works even without technology, I now play the bridge between ability to communicate with the tech guys and communicate with the business people. Because technology, coding in itself, I'm sure Edward understands it, cannot work. It's not just go and code, but they need to understand the process, the operations, the logic before they turn it into business. So that really made it easier for me to switch into tech, because what we are still doing is just that we are digitalizing investments, or put it in a simple way. So the ability to understand that investment really helps a lot. I think I'll stop there.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ayo. Before I go to the next question, I ask all the panelists I ask you to unmute because I wanted to encourage you so that we can have a discussion. If you want to have a rejoinder to what someone has said, please just go ahead and do that before I go to the next question. So I would ask, does any of Onyeka or Edward or Florence has like a response to that, or should I just go to your question? Because you mentioned a few things that I feel like intersect, overlap with your areas.
Yeah, I'd say the points you mentioned about starting your career and really optimizing for learning opportunities, it's very sound, because it always feels like at the beginning of your career, you are weighing between how much money you can make and where you can learn the most. And I think for a starter, figuring out where you can learn the most should be the priority basically at the start of a career. If you can get the learning and the money, so it's fantastic. But otherwise, we had to choose between one or the other. Optimize for learning, because you can actually multiply your earning capacity just by having a more solid foundation at the start. So, yeah, point. Ayodeji.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Ayo has said it all. He has the wealth of experience to back up what he has said, and I cannot but agree. Your foundation is very, very important, and whatever opportunity you find yourself in, you should take advantage of it, right? Take advantage to learn as much of that space as you can, even if you have a plan to evolve. But then you have to take your time to be good at whatever you find, your hands doing. For example, our current finance manager in Cowrywise has a degree in chemical engineering. Now, he left after his first degree in chemical engineering. He left it and then went on to do accounting, ACCA, and then CFA. Now, imagine if he had that mindset of, I'm just a bloody chemical engineer. Like, that's what I'm, just because JAM gave you chemical engineering does not mean that's the end of your life, right? People have the opportunity of evolving. And I think that mindset is very important wherever you find yourself in your career.
Yeah, I would also like to mix and I want to mix and mash Ayodeji and what Edward said about continuous learning, but also hands-on and not gunning for the money. So I'm a self-taught product designer, and I didn't have the luxury of maybe a design bootcamp or an internship program that I would get paid while learning to master my skill. So I did a lot of learning myself, YouTube videos, reaching out to people on LinkedIn or even on Twitter just to see if I'm headed in the right direction. But most importantly, I had to find a balance between practical application of what I'm learning. So that means taking up pro bono jobs. So if a friend has this amazing idea of designing an application that once you turn on your phone, you see yourself in math, I'm like, oh, let me see what I can do let me see if I can apply all the skills I've been learning on YouTube to help you bring your idea to reality. So, and this is pro bono. So this is for €0. Basically, what I was even learning was even beyond how to use a Figma tool to translate your idea into design, but I was also learning communication skills, like how to communicate and articulate my design decisions to my non-design clients, how to communicate with the tech team or the engineers, because engineers, they're in their own world, even though it looks like, oh,
Hey, thank you so much. Now, as I was listening to all of you, I find that you're all straddling two industries, even though that was not what you planned at the beginning. You all, while we had made this finance and tech, either you read tech and did end up in finance, or you're doing finance, or you started with finance and ending up in tech, or using tech as a tool. Almost all of you have that. If I think about that, and I'm not sure that was by design. I was reading something earlier about more like the careers of the future in terms of the future trends, and they say that people who have the capacity to straddle two careers, who can take arbitrage is the finance word, right? Who can take knowledge in one industry and apply it in the other, or can sit in two places and talk to people in two different industries, have the opportunity to make outsized income. And I feel like you guys are more or less like confirming that research for me. But I'll start from Edward here, and I think I'll be batching my questions together with two people now. So I'm going to do Edward and Onyeka together. Starting from Edward, you did computer engineering, then you had, I'm sure it's computer engineering or science. I think you said engineering. Then you first worked at IntoSwitch, which is Nigeria's first real like unicorn, right? And you have Cowrywise now. What do you see in terms of opportunities and in terms of how do you see those? How have you seen technology transform or impact finance, or how do you see that going forward? I want to give you two questions in one. How has it changed finance or impacted finance? And how should we think about it going forward? So Onyeka, that question is also coming to you. Oh, sorry.
Okay, cool. So the first question, how technology has impacted finance, has changed finance. And the second is what's the second one again?
It's gonna be more like, how's technology impacting finance now, and how should we envision it in the future? So it's the same question in two time zones or two time horizons.
Okay, great. Leave this multiple time zone, yeah, but it's okay. We understand. I think we are all privileged to be alive at a time like this, right? This is like a turning point to be at a place where an industry that has been around for ages, the financial industry, right? Starting from people lending grains to farmers, which was where banking really started from, like the concept of you loan money, And imagine how far the industry has gone. But then we have this tech industry, that was created in the 90s that today, is growing so rapidly. But then the new set of financial services we have today are being turned on their head, right? The way we consume some of these traditional financial services. And we are very privileged to be alive at this point. Because in the next 100 years, it will be a case of people are born into it. That's the normal thing. For example, the generation that are born into the internet today, they don't know any different. And they'll find it strange if you told them that, you used to work in the bank to fill a paper, to make withdrawal or to make deposits. They won't be able to connect. But then we are at a point where we can see the transition happening real time. So what has changed? The way people consume financial products have evolved. Typically, we have a lot of paper process, we have a lot of human interaction, we have a lot of gatekeepers, we have a lot of information asymmetry, but that is changing thanks to technology, right? Today, from the comfort of your home, you can find any information you need about any product. You can go to ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT, you know, what is a financial product? What does this mean? How do I consume it? And then the AI will spin out information for you. And then what do you do next? You pick up an app, and then you log in, you create an account, and then you do whatever you want to do. These tools are available today. The information is available today. The infrastructure is available today. As such, the way people consume financial products in the 90s is totally different, you know, from the way we consume it today. And that is to say that tech has been, you know, a great shifter. It has made a remarkable impact in the way technology is. And it's going to continue like that into the future. Now, I briefly mentioned ChatGPT. Now, this is just one of those emerging products that are changing, that are creating the future. I mean, the future is being created even while we are here, you know. Eventually, we will be in the future before we realize that, oh, so all along, we were part of the people creating the future. But then the future is already being created now. For example, we have AI tools that make predictions. We have AI tools that make recommendations. So behind some products you're using, it looks like it's just a human being that made the decision. Whereas there are actually machines making the decisions you are seeing or interacting with. A lot of banks are already implementing AI models, you know, machine learning models that will review your historical data and then determine whether you are eligible for a loan or not. A lot of people today will pick up their apps, want to, you know, maybe probably apply for a loan or make an investment decision, and then they will think it's an individual at the other end that is making the decision for them, like to prevent them from maybe getting a loan or prevent them from being qualified for a service. Whereas it's actually a machine that has looked at your data, your browsing history, your purchase history, a lot of things you've been doing in the past, and then the machine has come up with a model to decide that you're not qualified. So these things are already happening, and a lot of it is going to happen in the future. And the way, and it's funny because the way the future is going to look, we might not realize that we are already in the future, right? Because people will still think, oh, the future is still coming. But then we are already evolving. Things are already being put in place to ensure that, you know, some of this, the way we consume some of these products evolve. So an example I would give is GPTs. You know, even Apple today is integrating GPT into their product. Apple is launching financial products. Apple is launching debit cards. Typically, you think Apple is just a bloody phone manufacturer, but then they are also a financial services company today. Their financial services business is bigger than some banks. It's bigger than a lot of banks. In fact, I think it's even bigger than the biggest bank in Nigeria. Now, that is a silent evolution, and we'll get to see more of that as we move into the future.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Edward. Onyeka?
Like Edward has said so much. And I agree with him that it's an amazing time to be alive and to just see the intersection of finance and technology. I think that currently it's just made financial products more accessible to a lot more people. I remember a long time ago, or maybe not too long, it was not to a decade at least, and I used to wonder, how can I invest in the US stock market? And I'd hear all this very, very complicated process of how I had to do one thing. And I thought, there's just way too much for one person to do, right? Just to get into the US market. And then boom, I started hearing about Bamboo and Trove. And I thought, that's amazing. So now on my mobile phone, I can buy shares and I can buy them on a fractional basis. It's amazing, right? And then I think there's just a lot more access for people now. I mean, the everyday items we use, like our mobile phones, has become a gateway to the world. And in the kind of works we do, especially with banking institutions, financial institutions, I love that they are finding more innovative ways to use technology into their systems to make services more available to people, but also to increase their efficiency. And I love efficiency so much. And I think that tech is one way we can improve efficiency in financial services. But beyond how much people use technology in personal finance, in a personal finance capacity. And by the way, Edward, I should mention that I really love what Cowrywise is doing. It's amazing work. I also want to talk about how this also affects startups and tech founders, because it feels like a two-way relationship in a sense. We use the tech to improve financial services. Everybody wants access to finance, and maybe it does exist, maybe it doesn't, I don't know, but I'd really love to see, it become a lot easier for technology founders to get access to finance that they need to scale their businesses, in just the same way individuals have access to financial products by using platforms, banking in sectors using tech platforms to make this available to people. It's something I hope to see more in the future. Maybe something exists and I'm not aware of it because I'm not a tech founder, by the way. But hopefully something like this does exist in the future. It'd be amazing to see that. I'm also looking forward to people who are in the financial advisory space, who handle transaction services, mergers and acquisition and all that. I know there's a lot of hands-on work that goes into play when they're trying to maybe sell an asset. I'd love to see how more tech tools can be available to do that. I know that when it comes to accounting, for those who are in that space, there have been softwares that just help people categorize their expenses. I know there are some banking apps that do that. Like you buy something or you pay with your banking app or your card, whatever, and it just automatically classifies that for you, helping your budgeting or whatever, right? It just makes it easier for you to do that for people who don't like to budget. But I would love to see how that translates into the corporate space, and just seeing more businesses use these tools. Hopefully somebody works on that. I don't code. But hopefully somebody's able to do that. And just, I think in the future it's going to be a lot more interesting to see how this different lines intersect with one another. And there's so much already happening now. So much more can be more efficient than it is today. But I think it's just going to get better going forward, basically.
Okay, so I get to ask another question. So now I'm going to start with Florence. Then I'll ask Ayo as well to chip in. For both of you, how did, knowing that learning is no longer, you mentioned continuous learning. We know that that is no longer alone. And I just want to know how that works for you. How did networking and community as a whole play, what role did they play in how you learned to make that transition and do well in technology, given your finance background? Starting from Florence, then I'll go to Ayo. Okay. Okay. Oh no. Okay. Can you go now? Okay.
Yes. I'm on now. So how did networking
and community?
Yep. Really? Oh yeah. So okay, so starting off in product design, I had to learn how to do a bunch of things myself, unknown to me whether what I'm doing is right or wrong. So okay, let me start off by giving backstory how I got into tech. During NYSC, we had the skill acquisition session, and during that session, this design businesswoman came, talked about how she's designing for Nestle, And that really got my attention. I was like, okay, she's doing so many things. She talked about her process. I think that was really interesting. So I ran up to her after our talk and after the session to tell her at this point how I've designed in Microsoft PowerPoint, how I've played around with shapes and lines, and how I've created my first logo. It was a very funny conversation. But I also talked about my interest in design. So that ended there. But unknown to me, we've sort of created like a network, small network, exchange numbers. Down the line, she reached out to me and told me to come work with her as an intern with zero background in design. This is just Florence playing with Microsoft PowerPoint, interested in design and nothing. Not that I know what I was doing, but she reached out to me and she told me the beauty of, she basically told me about my zeal. Like she saw the fact that I'm very zealous. I know what I want. I'm going to get what I want either way. So maybe Microsoft PowerPoint or Figma or whatever, I'm sure going at it. And she saw that. So in addition to that experience, also trying to learn product design by myself, I decided to write a couple of articles, put myself out there, write my processes, document my processes as much as possible. And I created like this Medium account. This was back then in 2016. I didn't know if what I was doing was right or wrong, but this was me writing what I think is working for me right now in my company or for my clients. And anyone that comments down and they say, oh, great job, or you're headed in the right direction, I will slide into the person's DM and say, hi, you said this about my work. Can you share more feedback? I'm looking to learn and improve on this other category or this other section. I don't know if I'm headed in the right direction. And I found that to be very, very helpful, like sliding into people's DM, not being shy about what you want. And this is coming from a very, very shy person. I'm sure Babatunde knows. So not being shy about what you want something, someone has showed an interest in you, follow it up by asking more questions. And based on this, I've been invited to some community events. So back then, there were little design community events as we have it right now, little to none in those days. But based on my interaction with online friends, so some friends on Twitter, Medium. I mean, Twitter was not what it was today. Back then was very helpful communities, like genuine help. LinkedIn, Medium, everyone there, I see them invite me for events, maybe upcoming design events down the line. And we're all there talking about maybe design problems we're experiencing in our place of work, like how do we navigate certain soft skill, hard skills to meet our goals, basically. In summary, giving all the smaller examples of how I've had to interact with so many people and how I've been invited to so many events, I've seen how this has increased my skill set. So first of all, my skill set of learning how to use Figma, obviously, but secondly, how to navigate certain things. So you hear product designers say, oh, it's very important to cross collaborate with product managers, engineers. They're going to use the sweet big words. It's simple. It sounds simple and it sounds sweet. Cross collaborate with product designers, product managers, developers, but it's a lot of work to understand why developers have like certain technical constraints and how you as a designer, you have to be considerate of those technical constraints and make the best of it, like how to create the best seamless experience with the technical constraints, something like that. And it's also interesting to see how like top founders or business owners have, maybe they also want a particular goal, but their customers are saying, see, I will pay you more money if you give me this feature. So it's very important to chat about your challenges with your network, maybe from communities, or even reach out to someone. You don't necessarily have to have like a formal letter say, hi, I want you to be my mentor. It can just be, hi, I want to pick your brain on XYZ. I'm currently experiencing this problem. This is what I'm trying to do to navigate it. How can you help me, or how can you provide advice or support to do whatever to meet your particular goal? So that's what I've been doing for the past 8 years, and past 8 years to date, because to date, I'm still trying to increase in certain skill sets. I'm still trying to grow and become better in previous skill set that I thought I was good at. And yeah, I would say that is what I've done. And that's what I would advise any young design professional coming into the space to do, like reach out to people as much as possible. reach out to anybody. You don't have to know the person, funny enough. Like, you don't have to know the person, but of course, be friendly, be nice, and articulate your problems easily, simply, straight to the point. Yeah, it's been really helpful. Was it okay?
Okay, thank you very much, Florence. I can confirm that you have a super power for getting people to work around with you on learning. So great job. And I like the fact that you're still learning. You didn't stop, you're still learning. So I'm gonna ask Ayo now, in terms of network and community, how has that factored into your learning?
Okay, thanks. And very interesting points. Also learning a lot from the very great panelists. And I would say that looking back at the career where I started, the smaller the community, the first community was my colleagues at work that I learned. So I know Babatunde will see those days sometimes, even if I'm in research, I'll come to investment banking to come and learn. So even if I identify that you have a skill that I may not understand much and I need, I don't mind going to sit down to learn it. So I will approach you and I'll be able to learn it over time. And because of the experience, sometimes it may not be surprising that you may learn it faster because you also have a bit of background, some things, but because you may not have the opportunity to be exposed to that thing maybe when you were also starting your career. So that's the ability to reach out, first of all. So some of you may work in one department and you see someone has PowerPoint skills in one department, and you need that PowerPoint skills in your work. Then you need to be humble enough to reach out. You learn it. Then you go to a level that I may have to train people that work with me to learn that skill, because maybe I may not need to sit down to develop the PowerPoint. But I know that it is necessary for this business to grow. So when I start with the first community, say, okay, please, I see that you have one or two strengths in PowerPoint. These two guys working with me, they would come to you and you please let me guide them through. Now I've done it over time and I've seen it work. So that means I've solved my immediate problem. I don't have to be depending on one department or the other. Secondly, as I now like the stockbroking community, because for me, when you just write your report, publish it, you hardly even engage clients at times. But by the time I had the opportunity to function as a committee member, like we're starting with the stockbrokers, that was when I started knowing people across the industry. Really helps. So when you have opportunity to volunteer, even it's almost 10 years plus, I'm still part of that committee. Done function across different committees. I'm currently research and technical committee, and now a council member. But it started with the opportunity I had to just function as a committee member. So when we need to do anything across the industry, Ayo, do you know someone that can help us with this? No, it's either I would have met you at one of the conferences, or if I want to, I can easily introduce myself. So you need to also create that opportunity. When you see that opportunity, you know, opportunity always comes. It comes to us. God will create that opportunity. It is how you are now able to harness it and build on it that actually matters. You would see in when I got to AfroInvest, then that was going to be my first TV appearance. But I was also able to now establish very cordial relationship with the anchors that beyond when I left AfroInvest or went to other places, they were willing to give me slot for the firm, which was part of my negotiation skills that, okay, you need to rebrand your firm, don't worry, you can call anybody in channels, NBC and this, I'll get these slots for you. So that was an opportunity. I wasn't just going for the interview, coming back, but I was able to establish that relationship. So when that networking is always very powerful. and you need to always be able to harness those network that you have. Try to find something to keep in touch as much as you can. You may not be able to maybe see to discuss. Most people will not have time to discuss one-on-one, but once in a while, when you remember or you find something, you can check up on them. You are keeping that relationship warm. You don't know, you may never need it, and sometimes it comes in handy when you need it. So that would help you when you find yourself. So while I wrap up on this, so if you look at, based on your question around, for me, what does most times when I think maybe my employer discovered that I have the grace to solve problems. So the movement most time is when they see that there's a problem and the problem is like tough, come and solve it. That was all led to the movement. So you take it upon yourself to say, okay, yes, there was a problem here, and they see that because of how you have been able to solve that problem, when the next problem comes up, they want to solve it. See, just like my current job role as a tech person now is to come and solve the problem. And God has helped us, and now there's a product. So I don't know, maybe they'll wake up tomorrow and say there's another problem somewhere. You know, once you have built the foundation, you can always tweak it as you want. So, but that is why I would say is your ability of that learning. Yeah, I like the passion across this panelists, and there's something that has been recurring. And for those listening, learning is critical. You have to continue to learn. I can tell you there are some courses I've paid for. I'm supposed to be there. Is to help within fintech. The guys don't even know that I'm doing it, so that when you are saying some things, I can understand better. So I found there was a problem that I'm asked to come and solve. But now that I have the opportunity, I don't know how long God is this opportunity will still be here before I move to the next one. But I want to have a good grasp of how it works. So I can speak to even tech that I don't know. Like the guys will say, it's only that I can code, but I understand the logic or the flow of what you are saying. If you say this job will take you 2 weeks, I say, this one we did, what's going to be the difference between this one and this part? Because you need to save time. What's going to be the difference? Why don't you look at it, doing it this way? Since we already have these endpoints, I'm sure Edward will, Florence will understand you have all these endpoints. So why do we want to recreate it? You're already giving me this. So is that passion that over time, when I'm now speaking, it now looks like, oh, you've been in this industry for years. So when you see opportunity, and it will always come, this must be emphasized for younger ones, because that's why I'm also here. That's why I had to create time to be here. Opportunity will come your way. Even if it's not what you desire, take advantage of it. It will be useful as you grow, or it will be useful as you progress in your career. Do it well. Do it as if you are not paid, because that's my philosophy. If they stop paying me today at my workplace, the way I will work will not change. I may not start looking for work, so I'm not saying work for free, but the way I will do the work will not change, or deliver the work. So once you are able to develop that kind of philosophy, then the rest, it will be easier for you. So you become a problem solver, and that's what employers want. You want to come and help them solve problems. And once you can do that and be diligent with it, then I think the rest, with God, you will be able to survive.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ayo, and thank you very much, Florence. Before I go to the next question, something that I found very interesting, to summarize a few things that you guys both said, is in terms of networking and community, I like the fact that both of you leveraged online and offline communities. As I was listening, I saw very good full leverage of online networks and platforms and Medium. I also saw the fact that you use in-person associations and colleagues and people. So that's a very good bouquet of options in terms of communities for you to learn. I'm going to make a few announcements, and I'll go to the next question for Onyeka and Edward. So please, I've seen a few people put in adverts in the chat box. We do not allow that. So we just wanted to make that last verbal announcement. After that, we just have to take whatever steps which we would. Now we're also going to generally allow participants to ask questions. So if you have questions, we encourage you to put those comments and questions in the chat box. We'd also have some time at the end where we'll actually give you opportunities to actually unmute to ask questions. So if you have a question that is as the odds and you want to put it in the chat box, please just go ahead and do that. We really want to hear from you with regards to that. Now, I do recognize that we have people that are also employers in my panel. So we're going to ask you to hire our people or hire us at the end. But right now, a question that is coming to my mind, and this is for Onyeka and for Edward, is finance and tech are just two really, I would say, glamorous industries right now. If you were starting your career, let's say people are starting their career right now, they'll say, all these things people are saying is sweet. I want to start my career right now. Which one should I do? Not necessarily because let me put it this way. Which one should I do and why? Should I do finance? Should I do tech? And why? So, Onyeka first.
I think there are a lot of opportunities on both sides. Plus, the money is also good on both sides, if you're thinking about that, by the way. But generally with careers, though, I think that people should really think about what it is they want. And I know that's far-reaching because, who really knows what they want at the end of their careers, right? So, like Ayodeji said at the start, what you find to do, just do that first. If I were to pick though, I would start with finance. And here's why. Probably because I started with finance already in the first place. But I find that there are a lot of opportunities for you to switch into other industries and sectors with a finance background. And that's fine because I think with finance, you get to have a very decent understanding of how the business works. You know that finance is the lifeblood of every business. And I think it's true. And while tech is great, I think that with finance, you really get an inside view of what is going on in a company. You get more breadth because both ways you are working with is a cross-functional kind of job in finance and in tech, by the way. But I don't think anyone is really better than the other, but a personal preference for me would be to want to start with finance because it's also a transferable skill. If I was in finance, I said I wanted to do risk management. And because I had some knowledge on the other side, I could actually easily switch into risk management. I know a bit of tech and a bit of coding, but I use that as stuff to enhance the work I'm doing currently, not as a standalone professionalism, which is fine if anybody wants to do that. So really, first, know yourself, I guess. Know what makes you tick. You might not necessarily know that until you actually get into something and start doing that thing. And then you realize, okay, I love this part of the work I'm doing. I completely hate this part of the work I'm doing. And then you just lean a bit more into what it is you enjoy doing. So if you're going to be in tech, for example, and you're not particular about constantly coding, you might want to find a position or a kind of role that does not require you to code all the time. Maybe coding might be a knowledge you have, but it's not your core function. And it's possible to be in the tech space without actually coding. There are people who do product marketing, they're not coding anything. Who do tech sales and they're not coding anything. They just have a knowledge, but they don't get to do it, which is good. And if you're in the finance space, well, in what capacity would you like to function in that space? Do you want to be in, financial manager, CFO, an accountant, whatever? Do you want to be on the transaction services side where you're handling merger and acquisitions, stuff like that? where do you really want to function? Again, as a career starter, it really starts with doing something first and then leaning into what works for you. But I think neck on neck, I feel like both sectors are great to start with. I don't think anyone is any better than the other, because you can be in finance and do a bunch of tech related stuff. If, for example, if you're a credit analyst, you will be coding quite a bit, even though you're technically doing finance, right? And even if you're just a finance manager, you might find that sometimes you have some tech tools you do need to make use of. That just makes your work a lot easier. People use Excel for all sorts of things. And I don't know if Excel is just the regular Excel these days, if it's like slightly becoming more like a coding platform, because so much is happening inside this, and Microsoft is doing a great work there. So really, and if you don't know what it is you like yet, think about maybe when you're in school, what subjects or courses you found yourself enjoying a bit more. Explore. There are courses available online. You can do something related to finance, and you can do something related to tech, and see what you just felt happier doing, and just jump into that. The money is not the problem. You will get paid well either way, which both sectors will pay you really well, but you also learn a ton of skills that you can transfer to another industry, should you at some point in life decide you want to know.
Okay, Edward?
Okay, if I wanted to be biased, right, I would go by the information you mentioned at the beginning of this program, that the top 5 companies in the world, they are all tech companies. They are all big tech companies. So if I was a biased guy, everybody, please go for tech. However, if I wanted to be objective, I will tell you that it doesn't matter what your background is, right? From the data points we've seen, especially that I've seen personally, it doesn't really matter what your first degree is, right? Your first degree could give you some slight edge in terms of maybe your ability to be analytical in your thinking, especially if you studied engineering. Your mindset, I mean, that could give you a little edge above someone that studied possibly history or philosophy, right? Just because the engineering program is focused a lot on mathematics and analytics and, and all that, compared to the historian. Not like he's better than that, but then the focus of the program, right? That said, I don't think it really matters what your first degree is. If you love tech, if you love finance, those are 2 roles I've discovered, I've realized that anybody smart enough by half can move into, right? Those are 2 big industries, hot industries right now. We can't tell whether in 100 years, tech won't be really an industry anymore, because every industry would have tech embedded in it, right? So maybe the fact that tech is shining now is just, for the next 100, maybe other industry would start to shine, soon, when tech has become a commodity, and then it's, it become like a tool in everything. That said, whatever your first degree does not matter. You can still go into tech. You can still go into finance. Like I said previously, our finance manager here at Cowrywise studied chemical engineering. I have a lot of my engineering colleagues, classmates in school, that have done the CFA exam, and they are now totally in finance, even though we read engineering together. There are people that read microbiology that are now one of the best engineers we have in Cowrywise. There are people that, they read accounting, but then they moved into tech. So I think one of the things I've realized separated some of us from our colleagues in the university was the fact that we had access to the information that you can actually move to something else. A lot of people didn't have that information. It was wired in their head that whatever JAM gave you, whatever you studied, that's the kind of job you should go look for, right? do not re-educate yourself in something else. Like the Yorubas will say, when you're born, you have to be reborn, right? A lot of people didn't have that information that, no, just having, I mean, the fact that you studied economics does not mean you cannot pick up programming. The fact that you studied microbiology does not mean you can study to, to pass the CFA exam. So I think a lot of people realized late, but the few people that made that mental switch, they are the ones that have eventually, became very successful because they didn't let their first degree determine, where they were going. They just decided, okay, I love this tech, I want to study for it. And then they went for it. I love finance, I go for it. I go do the CFA exam. For example, even in Cowrywise now, some of our engineers are preparing for the CFA exams. Right now, they are doing the CFA foundation courses just because of the way we have seen ourselves as a company, right? A new kind of wealth management company that doesn't really separate the roles like, oh, finance guys go, tech guys go. Because we have engineers that are, trying to build models out of existing manual financial processes. For example, we're doing something around double entry, and then we had an engineer go to the finance guys to sit down with them. Okay, what is double entry? How can I turn this into programming? Those are the opportunities we find for me to now to conclude that it really doesn't matter what your first degree is, as long as you have the interest, the passion, the dedication, right? Ask the CFA people. They took sleepless nights, before the passed. You should be ready to commit to that. At the same time, if you ask engineers, they will tell you how many times they hit their head on their keyboard before something clicked. And then the moment it clicked, they figured it out for life. So that would be my submission, that, your first degree doesn't matter. It could give you a slight edge early on in your career, but then you are free to move into tech or finance, especially now that there is a convergence in the two industries, right? The finance people are heavily adopting tech. The big banks in the US, the big wealth managers, they are really, really adopting tech, which means tech people are finding roles in those companies. The same thing applies. The Apple, the Apple, the Microsoft, the Googles of this world are hiring heavy finance guys, to come in to help strengthen the kind of models they are building. So I think there are opportunities in both areas. You just need to find which one clicks with you. Okay, do I like tech? Do I like finance? Then go for it. That would be my submission.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much. And there's this question that has been playing on my mind. That's another question I'll ask everyone later. But this question, I also don't know who to. Let me phrase the question first, then I would see who I'm going to send it to. But when I think of GPTs, right, in terms of when we were discussing earlier, how a credit analyst will analyze like a credit prospect and write reports, or even the fact that GPTs can write stories. So most of the things that people can do, GPTs can do it or can do a big chunk of that work. How do we think of skills going forward? We've spoken about learning on this call, but what kind of skills, and I think I'm going to ask everybody to take a stab at this one. I'm not going to say, why I'm saying take a stab at it is, there are no definite answers. Just, I want to know your opinion. How should people think about skills going forward? Should they learn the old type of skills that they were learning? Or what should we even do right now, given where technology is going? I think I might want to start with Edward here, because you are the technologist first, and you work at this crux. Then I'll go from Edward, maybe Edward, Florence, Onyeka, then Ayo.
Okay, so I think there is a medium-term approach to this, and there's a long-term approach to this. For the short and medium term, you might have to keep learning what traditionally you're supposed to learn, right? However, to prepare for a future where the GPTs are taking over, I think one of the skills that is beginning to emerge these days is communication skills, right? For instance, there's an emerging role called prompt engineering. Prompt engineering is, you having the ability to talk to GPTs and then asking them the right questions, right? GPTs they know a lot, but then if you don't ask them the right questions, you keep getting suboptimal responses. Now, the question becomes, who are the people that can ask this kind of questions to take advantage of the GPTs? If you tell the GPT, write me a poem, it's going to write you a poem. But if you go a step further to say, write me a poem set in the 1700s, written by an author that has published 3 books previously in the theme around literature, health science, or medicine, and make it in just 2 paragraphs. Those are details, additional details that we need people to be able to give GPTs. So as GPTs are evolving, we need people to refine their communication skills, their writing skills. I mean, the languages are biased to English at the moment, but who says, it won't evolve into French or German or Yoruba? How good your Yoruba is could determine how well you can interact with a Yoruba GPT, for example. So communication is important. There's also the analytics tools, analytics mindset. So you've been given some output by GPT. The question is, okay, so what do you do with it? We still need people that will understand these results because they are machine-generated responses and be able to, present it to human beings. For example, you could be asked a question and then you put it in a GPT and then it spins out a lot of technical stuff for you. The question is, are you able to communicate this same data to people for it to be useful down the line? And a last example would be, for example, GPTs right now can even write code for you. As a software engineer, it's made my work so easy. We still need software engineers. We still need people that are developers. But then GPTs are making it so easy for them. Recently, I was trying to come up with an algorithm to solve a problem. And then typically I would have, spent hours thinking about this thing, sleepless nights, carry the textbook, scribble something on paper, try to tap into my previous experiences and memories. Today, I don't have to do that. I just go to a GPT and then GPTs are so good that they can give you examples, snippets. So what we need are engineers that can take advantage of that. We still need engineers. We still need software developers. We still need, AI engineers to be able to take advantage of this. For example, even in Tesla today, where a lot of the car manufacturing process has been automated, you still need individual machine operators that can speak to these machines. Amazon warehouse has a lot of robots carrying items here and there. You still need people to be in charge of those machines. So your skills that you're learning right now is good, brilliant, keep at it. However, to prepare for a future, you have to keep looking at, the direction the tech products are going. GPTs require someone to ask the question. Coding helpers require an engineer to review, the code, going forward. So the skills will still be there. It's just that they are evolving and giving us opportunity to evolve with them.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Edward. Florence?
I love what Edward said about the analytical thinking and also communication. So I'm going to start off there. So for analytical thinking, so ChatGPT, first of all, should be seen as your PA. So I use ChatGPT as my PA. It has streamlined my workflow. It has greatly optimize the design operation I have to do. So one of my selling points when it comes to like applying to businesses or clients outside of Nigeria is the fact that I am great at design documentation. So I document my design thoroughly and send it to my stakeholders, so developers or stakeholders above. So that's something I would have to spend so much time doing, so much hours trying to make sense of the data we've gotten from the users, convert the insights into recommendation, and translate that into how that can birth like a seamless experience or birth the product. So that's something I would have spent like weeks doing on my own. But right now, with the rise of ChatGPT, with the beauty of my new PA, ChatGPT, all I'm just doing, like what Edward rightly said, is see this data. I have an idea that based on everything, yeah, this is what they're trying to say. But can you, with the idea or with the information that this is our business goal, from a product point, this is what we are trying to achieve from a product point. From a technical point, these are our limitations. So can you work with all these sub data groups and come up with a really resound recommendation for my colleague? And within 2 minutes, ChatGPT has done something that I would have spent 3 months working on or 1 month working on. So I see ChatGPT enhancing my operation. I see it enhancing my workflow. But then again, I know how to use this tool so well because I've been able to increase my analytical skill. I've been able to build on my analytical skill from my background in economics. So because of that, I know what I'm looking for. So if ChatGPT is telling me X, Y, Z, I'm like, I don't think you're right. Maybe I did not impute the right keywords. Maybe you don't understand where I'm coming from. I think this is what I'm trying to say. And I think I'm expecting this kind of results, or are you saying I'm missing out on some data? So ChatGPT has basically helped me to become a really good designer in my career, and even a good product person or a great product person in my career. In fact, increase the success of the company, which means making more money for the company and increasing my salary low key. But ultimately, I love what Edward said. Like, if you don't know what you're looking for, if you don't even know, if you don't have those skill sets from your maybe undergrad or maybe from before coming into tech or before even interacting with ChatGPT, how would you be able to assess if the information you're getting from ChatGPT is really helpful? How would you be able to assess if this is the right information? How would you be able to ask the right question? So having your analytical skill is one thing, yes. Being able to communicate your goals, your intentions, your expectation with ChatGPT, with the hopes that you are going to get the right data to be able to translate that to your colleagues, non-design and design folks, is also another thing. So that brings me into communication. So communication is an essential skill. First of all, of course, from school, you need to be able to communicate clearly and concisely. But also when interacting with some of all these AI application or ChatGPT, you need to be able to effectively and concisely say, this is what I'm trying to achieve. These are the data I have right now. Am I missing out more data? These are the questions I want to ask the users because these are the hypotheses we want to test out before building out a particular feature. So you need to be able to communicate concisely with the ChatGPT and also be able to evaluate the design, the results from ChatGPT. The last thing I would want to call out is continuous learning. So I've found scenarios where in the past, if I'm lacking in certain skills, which I can self-assess myself that, okay, I don't know this thing so well, I would have to go to Google, which would take me to a YouTube page to watch 3 hours of someone talking about something. And all I need is just 2 minutes somewhere in the middle of the 3 hours. So I've had to do that, which makes me spend so much time learning something when I just want to learn something in 2 minutes. But with ChatGPT, again, my PA, I'm saying, oh, somebody has said something about, okay, so I remember when I was in Carbon, I wanted to recommend or suggest an idea of making payments, sending funds offline. So how can we do this offline? Because everything is now online, but we need to be mindful of the fact that we're in Nigeria where anything can happen to your network at any time. So what happens if I'm stuck somewhere and I need to send money or pay bills or even top up my call credits so I can make calls to be out of there. So what happens when there's no network, and how can I fund my account, or how can I top up my airtime? So in those days in Carbon, of course, there was no ChatGPT. I think this was 2018. I had to do a lot of research, watch a couple of YouTube videos, and that was where I even stumbled on a talk by a Google designer, so like a very big designer at Google, and they were talking about their process working on the offline map. So I don't know if we know, on your Google Maps right now, you can access the map online and also offline. So if you don't have network, you can still find your way around point A to point B without network. And they talked through their process. They explained how they did it. It was a really, really insightful session, but I had to spend so much time watching it, which, I mean, I gained some insights. I was able to sell my market to my colleagues at Carbon, and they bought into the idea. But right now with ChatGPT, all I have to just do is explain that, okay, this is something I'm working on. Do you think there's a technology that exists like right now? Or are there businesses that are doing something remotely close to this? So you can check them out. So you saved time of 3 hours of trying to study or understand someone's panel session of their thought process, and you have it in one short, maybe not short, but you have it answered as a chat, and ChatGPT is basically walking you through how Google, so person at Google did something similar to what you're doing, but it's the offline Google Maps. This is what they did. This is the summary of their talk, their 3 hours talk. This is the summary in 15 minutes. This is what I think you need. So I think for me, and right now with me, ChatGPT, and even design, or even with designers out there, I see how we can leverage on ChatGPT to be better designers. We can leverage on ChatGPT to be better communicators, not just communicators like speaking English, but communicators like explaining how certain design decision will increase the value of the company by X%, or we increase we increase our customer group by XY%. So yeah, really, I see ChatGPT helping helping out in product design, and those are examples of how I've leveraged on it in the past and even currently. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Then I'll go to, I think, Onyeka.
I feel like Edward and Florence have said pretty much what's really important. Knowing how to ask the right questions and how to ask really good questions is very important. And I think that's a skill many people need to learn, because even when we communicate with one another, you find that sometimes you've said so many things and really said nothing at all. And so the person don't get, okay, so what are you asking for, right? So we need to learn how to ask really good questions and understand that GPTs they're tools and they're supposed to enable, right? So when we're coming to use those tools, we need to know what it is we're looking for and know what these things still have limitations basically today. And so if it spits out some very rubbish answer, how would you know it's rubbish it gave you? There's been talk about times when ChatGPT in particular had issues with mathematics. You know, it gives you a response and you're like, no, that's not right. What is it supposed to this coming? And then it says, oh, I'm sorry, it's supposed to be. And like, no, that's still not right. And it gets confused too, right? So if you don't know if you don't have the basic knowledge, I feel like we should all learn whatever it is you want to use these tools for. At the very least, you should have a foundational understanding of it. And I think when Edward said being an analytical thinker, it's really helpful. So if I want to use it to aid me in my finance work, I need to have at least basic finance knowledge. When I moved to the UK, I actually had ChatGPT. How would you advise you? Imagine you're a financial advisor. How would I manage my income of so and so amount in a single month? And then it wrote down all those things. Now, because I am a financial coach, I was able to take the response it gave me and I just edited some of it. I mean, it did have some really good suggestions, but then I knew what to do with those suggestions because I have some background knowledge. And so if you're coming into using this tool with zero knowledge and it gives you nonsense or what it thinks it's a good response and you just fly with that, I feel like you will fail in so many ways. Okay, so it's an enabler. Have basic understanding of what it is you want it to give, of what you expect your result to look like. so that when it gives you something, you can actually edit its response, analyze its response, and see if that works for you. Learn how to ask good questions. Maybe you don't use GPT to learn how to ask good questions. Use actual human beings to learn how to ask good questions. Edward mentioned prompt engineering. It's actually a course on Coursera called prompt engineering. It's a good place to start learning from, and you can get you can do the course for free, I guess, if you apply for financial aid. You don't need to pay anything. It's something worth learning. There's also a course on Coursera called Introduction to Computer. I think it's so computational thinking. That's a really, really good course. You're not coding anything, but it helps you understand how machines think. And so you learn how to take big problems and break it down into small problems, while also thinking analytically to find a solution for yourself, right? And so you understand what kind of input you're giving these machines. So it gives you the kind of results you're looking for. So I think these are good courses worth taking. And it also, so that's another skill I think we need to learn, how to take big issues and break them down into little chunks, and then solve each little problem until you get, and then you can put those solutions together and get an actual answer to the big problems you have. Communication is still standard across board. Learning how to present, take what output you receive and make it make sense to the stakeholder you're trying to communicate to. What one person needs as information is not the same that another person finds useful. And your PowerPoint slides might be beautiful, but in the end, your stakeholder just wants to know, okay, what does this mean for us? Period. And if you cannot communicate that, in their mind, you've done nothing, even though you spent days trying to work out a solution. The response in it might just be on one page, that's all. But you have fancy presentations that says absolutely nothing to anybody. So understanding what kind of information stakeholders need, each stakeholder needs, they need different things, and how to communicate that information you've received from your fancy GPT work to them. So these are skills I believe will never go out of style. Even if GPT becomes obsolete tomorrow and something fancy and new comes up, these skills will always be useful across board, every single
time. Thank you, Onyeka. Then Ayo?
I think I've just been listening and been learning. And I think what I would just emphasize was what Onyeka really emphasized is that you need to first have that background because while the ChatGPT would help you solve the problem, you would see that when Florence was speaking, because she already had understanding about that area, it was easier. And it will also help you to ask the right question, because if we don't balance it, for most people, you may be delivering results, but as you progress, you may not be very grounded. So first of all, ensure that you're able to build that strong foundation first. And it's now helping, I like the word, the enabler, it's not helping you to ease your work. Like everyone would say, I will use this example, like learning those that learned with manual and start driving automatic cars or driving automatic car, because you learn with, but most people will not understand learning with manual cars again. But because you started from that way, so it was not easier. It was easier for you to really grasp and drive an automatic car. That is the way I want us to see it. So for those that maybe you are just starting your career and you are not really grounded, I'm sure even the ChatGPT would be able to give you skills on things you have not even done before, and you package the employer, you come in. It will, as you progress, that gap will be there. So while the technology is really helping us to simplify things, for those just starting, please be mindful that you build a strong career to understand that area. That is when you'll be able to ask the right question. That is when you would be able to know when you are giving the wrong answer. It's like you are using Grammarly, and now they also have AI to prove your youth. Sometimes when it's reading for you, say, no, this is not what I mean. This is not what I have in mind. You don't just accept all and move on. So that is really very key, because that's the point I would just highlight from the discussion. A lot of very interesting perspective have been highlighted. But please, let's build that strong background while we use this platform, this AI, as enabler to make things simpler for us and faster and more efficient.
Thank you so very much. I still have so many questions, but at this point, we wanted to hand over to participants just to also hear questions that people have for you as well. So I'm going to have the current CEO of EduBridge Academy, Olaide, handle this part where he entertains questions from the audience. So Olaide, take it up from here. Oh no. Okay.
All right. I think now I can speak. Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Hi, Florence. Thank you very much for coming. Hi, Onyeka. Thank you so much for coming, Edward and Ayodeji. And this has been very, very insightful. And I think I've also written a lot, and these are some of the things that I'm going to also implement myself. So thank you very, very much. And to all our participants, thank you very much. And I know that you've also taken a lot of notes. It's time for questions. Looking at the chat box, I've not seen so much questions, but maybe I can start by asking this question. So basically, quite a number of entry-level people might be on this call. They might need to learn one or two things in terms of getting into tech, a career in tech, or finding a career in finance. What specific areas can people focus on? For example, I know in tech we have UI, UX. So what specific areas can people, for information's sake and for research purpose, or I mean, people might be hearing, seeing, or engaging in this conversation for the first time. So how are they able to access tech? So when we say tech, tech is, I mean, pretty huge, right? What areas of tech can people, or what specific opportunities besides those that we've mentioned, that people can actually study and prepare themselves for a very successful career, both entry level and maybe mid level. So I'll probably say that I'll start with Florence. Maybe Florence looks at some entry level areas in tech that people can focus on. Then Edward looks at maybe a bit more mid-level or something that people can transit into as their career move forward. Maybe I'll start with the tech folks. Thank you. I think she's muted. We can't hear you. So, Ms. Oma, please, can you please work on that?
Okay, great. I have the mic now. Thank you. So there are a lot of, okay, so like Laide rightly said, tech is right now expanding at an unprecedented rate. Like there are a lot of groups you can, or there are a lot of skills you can take off as a junior person coming into tech. So if you have the knack for innovation, problem solving, or working in an extremely fast-paced environment, you can explore product management, you can explore UI UX design. I can tell you more about UI UX design if you don't know. You can also explore data science, because now there is a huge, if you think UI UX was loud in those days, now the new buzz is data science, cybersecurity. So I really encourage more people to explore or look into data science or taking up courses that would get you that skill if maybe product management or UI UX is not your forte. There's also cybersecurity. There's software development, and I feel like that is something that is going nowhere. So we have front end, back end, full stack. There are a lot of sub skills to explore. One of the reasons why I'm mentioning all these skills is with all these skills in tech, you can explore diverse opportunities across diverse domain and industries. So it's not just fintech. So for example, in my experience as a senior product designer for over 8 years, I have morphed from finance, so that means designing fintech application, into legal. So I've worked with a legal tech company. I've also worked with a social network company, that's Polywork. I'm currently working with an auto repair company, which in Nigeria, we call them mechanics. So I'm working as a mechanic, but in the US, you get like trying to understand how the auto repair space work in the US, trying to understand how the technicians or the auto shop work and how they service their customers. So with all these skills, with cybersecurity, data science, UI, UX, product management, and a lot more, you're not just restricted to one industry or one space. You can delve into any space you want to. I've also worked in gaming. I just remember that I've done gaming. Like all you just need to do is I am curious. I want to explore something. I don't mind working in a fast-paced environment. I have the skill to understand your problem and talk to your customers and create a solution, which is the digital product. And that means I can go into any industry and just shine there. So if you are interested in tech, again, I would encourage you to check out product management, UI, UX, software development, data science, cybersecurity. Read through all of them. Check out the differences between everything. Check out the skill sets required to excel in all these subdomains and see how you relate to any of them. So data science might be your thing and UI, UX is not your thing. That's fine. You can delve in deeper and shine with it. Yep.
All right, Edward. Please, can you unmute Edward?
Okay, thanks, Florence. So I would, to answer this question, I think this is 2024. If I wanted to get into tech, like when I got into tech, like 2000 thereabout, I wish there was a ChatGPT or Google, or at its current level. What I would do is to put this question in Google or ChatGPT. What are the things I can learn to get into tech? There's a programming, because I don't think this this Zoom session will allow us to really go into all of them. But then for the purpose of after the program, I think you should go to Google or ChatGPT. There's a lot. I can't begin to mention them. Software engineering, software development, project management, like Florence mentioned, data science, there's just a lot. However, for starters, if I was just starting, again, this advice has worked for me, and I've given it to other people that it has worked for. If I'm fresh, I'm just getting into tech, what I'm going to learn is website design. How to design websites. That is where I'm going to start from, because that seems to me like the most basic, of all, of any of those programs, not even programming, and the reason why website design is the easiest for me is because you don't need people to employ you to prove that you can do it. A lot of all those tech courses, all those tech programs, for instance, if you are learning cloud computing, how are you going to demonstrate to me that you are good in cloud? It's because it's just hard. And then if you are learning cybersecurity, security engineering, I'm not going to employ you because I need to see some experience behind your resume. You can't just tell me you learned cybersecurity engineering by yourself and then I should give you my infrastructure to secure. But then things like website design, you can learn it in the corner of your room, and all you need to do is to build a website and then show people, I built that. And then they'll be like, wow, you did that? That's enough validation for you. And that's the quickest way for you to enter into tech. Now, after website design, you can now, put dip your toes into programming, you know, making the website a bit functional, right? That's where you now start to pick up a programming language like Python, PHP, you know, and then I think that, so that's for people that want to do development. Start with website design, then before you're now going to engineering, software engineering. I think they are the easiest part. I've given it to some, I use the advice myself personally, and I've given people the same advice. A lot of them are solid developers today, but they started from just designing basic websites. Then after that, you know, go to Google, go to ChatGPT. The world is limitless. There's a lot of opportunities on things to learn in tech. Thank you.
I'm muted. Oladosu, I'm muted.
All right. Thank you very much. Maybe I shouldn't mute myself anymore. Thank you so much for those insights. And I know that, I mean, people are going to go back and do a bit of research using those tools to get a lot more insight. But I would like to call maybe someone from the finance side. Who wants to go for it? Onyeka, would you want to go for it?
Okay. I'm going to give you the finance equivalent of what Edward said for tech. Go learn how to use Excel. Seriously. Because you're going to use it. It doesn't matter what field you go into in finance. If you decide to be a financial advisor or a financial manager, an accountant, or doing financial, whatever you decide to do, you are going to use Excel one way or the other. So I would advise you start by learning that and then learn how to present. So presentation skills, PowerPoint is what most companies use because Microsoft is just embedded in all our systems for some reason. So learn how to, excuse me, learn how to use PowerPoint, learn how to use Excel. You can find courses online that will explain some of these. There are a whole bunch of courses on Coursera, really. I'm sure EduBridge teaches stuff like this too, right? Right?
Yes, EduBridge has like a preparatory program for data analytics, data engineering, data science, and for finance, basically, over time, over 10 years experience doing that. And it's been pretty good.
Awesome. So if you can learn how to use Excel, I mean, even if you have an interview to go for, I feel like they're always at some point going to want to test that you're able to use that platform for something at least. So learn how to use it. Yeah, I'll say start from there. Finance is, somebody asked in the comment in the comment section in chat about where they can start for an entry-level vocation when going into finance. If you can get into audit, I think you should. Really. Because it's very wide. And you will learn a whole bunch of things there. If you are in a small firm, not a big four, chances are that you will get to work across different sectors and industries. If you are in a big firm, you might be restricted to just one sector, maybe financial services or consumer goods or energy sector, or whatever. If you're in a smaller company, it will pay you less, obviously, but you get to move across industries a bit more. So if you can get into audit, I think audit is a good place to start because for one, you will learn how to use that Excel, and you will learn accounting, you will learn some financial management, you will learn how to write reports, you will learn how to present. So it's really just a very decent all-rounder for a beginner. That's not that if you don't get into audit, you should not do the work you get. I'm just saying if you can get into that space, then you should definitely take it.
All right. Thank you so much, Onyeka. We have a question, and I think this should go to Edward. He says, how does cloud computing helps with accounting / finance apart from accounting software? She said, I've been seeing something online on it, but I don't really understand. Is this something that we might be able to answer? cloud computing with accounting? Please, can you help me unmute Edward?
Oh yeah, cloud computing with accounting. Those are strange bedfellows. However, I think a lot of tools that accountants use today, a lot of them are in the cloud. So if you're an accountant, the kind of the side, there are two sides to cloud computing, right? There's the SaaS side, SaaS, software as a service side. And there is the infrastructure side of cloud computing. Now, if you are in finance, you're an accountant, you don't have to worry about the infrastructure side of cloud computing. What you need is the SaaS, SaaS side of cloud computing, because a lot of tools used by accountants, finance people today, a lot of them are on the cloud, and they are offered like software as a service. For example, you have your accounting software. The accounting software we use in-house is by a US company, is on the cloud. A lot of wealth managers use softwares that are hosted on cloud infrastructure, somewhere in the US or wherever. So these tools are already on the cloud for finance professionals. And I think that's where, there might be your need to look into cloud. But then looking into cloud now as a finance guy is on the tool side, not on the infrastructure side. I think we can leave that for the tech people, because the finance people won't want to bother themselves about it. But they need to know how to use cloud-based tools, from Intuit, from Oracle, from Microsoft, from Google. A lot of them have financial accounting products that are hosted strictly on the cloud. So I think that's what I can say to that.
All right, thank you so much. Does anyone have anything to add? All right, thank you so much for that answer. I would like to take at least one person. I would like someone to unmute your mic and ask a question before I take the final question, so that before 5 o'clock we can end this session. I would like one person to ask a question live and direct it to any of our panelists. Okay, Ife, you can go for it. You can unmute and go for it. Please, can we unmute Ife?
All right. Good evening, everyone. I know we are calling from maybe different parts of the world. Good evening, good afternoon, as the case might be. First and foremost, I want to thank EduBridge for doing this. I've been a beneficiary of their programs at one time or the other. Quickly to my question on what brought me to this space. I think the topic was it for me because in the last couple of, weeks and months, I've sought for something that plays within the tech space and the finance space. And that's where my question really lies. So my question, in no particular person or order, as much as panelists can contribute, I'd really appreciate it. My question is, what would I say role or skill sets finally interplace between tech and finance, such that I know there are a number of interrelated fields, right? But what set of skill sets is required to be able to interplay well within the tech space and then the finance space? It could be certification, it could be courses, it could be a skill set. So that's my question. What skill sets or skill sets or certification or things that are required to be able to fully or smoothly interplay within the finance space and the tech? Because for a while now, I've been drawn to my two areas of industry where I have interest in finance and then tech. And I'm asking, I don't want to lose, I will not lose, I want to still play in between those two spaces. So I'm asking, what do I need to do, or what skills do I need to possess to be able to actively play within the finance space and then the tech space? So that's my question. Thank you.
Who wants to go? Who wants to try to provide an answer?
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
You have to be a good problem solver, because I think either way you're going to need that. But again, that also goes for pretty much almost every vocation at this point. So know how to solve problems. And I mean this in the sense of how to take a problem, break it down, have a systematic way of dealing with each aspect of it and getting into an actual solution for the whole. Learn how to communicate. We talk about communication so much here. It is always going to be useful across board. Project management. Yeah, project management is very useful in both finance and in tech. I'm going to throw in something extra. Business analysis. I'm not saying business analysis the way we think about business, about it. I feel like sometimes when we have like job descriptions, they say business analytics and data analytics, and it feels like sometimes it's interchangeable. Talking about business analysis. The ones where they talk about improving efficiency, project management is quite useful in that. So even if it's a foundational course you take, I'm not saying take the entirety of it. There is a course on, I think it's on Udemy. Yeah, it's a full program, but if you just take the first part of it, the foundational part of it, I find that it's been quite useful for me. And I think it will be useful for pretty much anybody, because it helps you understand how to build efficiency within what you're doing and to just find ways to improve processes. And that's a skill that is a bit like project management. I feel like it's useful in almost any discipline you're in. So let me just read through it again. Problem solving, communication, project management, business analysis. Before you start thinking about the tools that you might use across board, I think if you are coding, people who are in finance and tech, I feel like knowing how to code Python is useful on both ends, but also depends on the finance work you're doing. If you're an accountant, I don't know why you'd be coding anything. You'd probably just use Excel for most of what you're doing anyway, or your financial software. But if you are into things like quant, then you may need to learn at least one coding language. Most of what people use is R. Some people use Python, some companies use SAS. So you might need to have an understanding of how to code. I don't think they restrict it to which language you need to use, though, if you're in the finance part. But if you are thinking about both ends, I think that Python flows into either of them. I know there's a R Python fight in the tech space, so you can probably throw that in for yourself too. Maybe that would help. And that's it for me.
Okay, thank you. Please, what's the name of the course on Udemy? You didn't mention the course.
I think it's just, if you just said business analysis, I think something should come up. The author of the particular course I'm referring to is BA Guide. That's the author of the course I'm referring to. But there are a whole bunch of business analysis course on Udemy. The BA Guide one is quite good, because that's the one I took a few years ago. And even if, like I said, just the first part of the course, the first course in the program is useful because it gives like an overview of the rest of the stuff that comes in. But it's quite useful in a sense that it's very applicable almost immediately. While you're learning, you can be thinking of the things you're doing at work and your business. You can start embedding some of your learning into some practical hands-on knowledge almost immediately.
All right. Thank you so much, Onyeka. That was good. And I think I'll take one more person. Michael Showumi raised the hand. Michael Showumi can ask his question, unmute and ask his question. Please, let's unmute Michael Showumi. Thank you. Please make it very brief. Make it very, very brief. Thank you.
Very much.
Please, you can mute me.
Okay, can we hear me now?
Very well, yes.
Okay, thank you very much, our beloved panelists. I'll just go straight into my question. Right, I joined in quite late, and then it was around where we were talking about how to leverage ChatGPT to improve our work. So my question goes to us: how can I leverage ChatGPT more effectively while writing academic research publications? So I currently use it in specific areas, but I believe there's much more I can, accomplish with it. So like I said again, I currently use it in specific area, but when I joined in the session, like I said, I joined in late, so I joined in when the particular panelist was talking about leveraging ChatGPT in certain areas where I work. So I would like to know how I can, because I believe there's still much more I'm not exploring yet. So I would like to know how I can leverage ChatGPT more to improve on, especially on certain areas that I'm not aware of yet. Like I said again, I currently use it for some certain areas, but I still believe that there are still much more areas that are yet to be explored.
Okay, Michael, I think Onyeka mentioned something during the course of the program that you can check out a prompt engineering course on Coursera, I believe. Yes, please. I think that course could help you, build on what you already know with respect to using ChatGPT.
Yeah, I think that's succinct. You can look up that particular area and try to improve on prompt, getting the responses that you can get through ChatGPT. So I think that has answered your question. Finally, I think we're going to take the question from Mary. Please, let's unmute Mary and have Mary's question. Finally. Please, let's unmute Mary. Yeah, okay, now you can.
Okay, I'm so sorry there's a bit of a background noise. I have just one quick question. Onyeka was responding to me, but I think she missed my follow-up question. I'm just trying to properly understand how a product manager, or let me say a product management enthusiast and an FA specialist can combine both. I'm just trying to have a fine blend of tech and financial analysis. Those two areas are what I'm kind of interested in at the moment. I don't know if I can strike a balance in a reasonable way. I've been trying to wrap my head around it. I'm thinking on financial analysis courses and also learning PM on the side. I don't know if they're completely disjointed or at some point I can finally blend them and make it a sensible career out of both. Please, did you hear me?
Planning to pick one a regular full-time job and another one a part-time job. But I feel like both careers are really demanding. I'm not sure what your plan is. Mary, are you there? Oh, she's muted. Anyway, I was responding earlier and I said, I think if I were in your shoes, what I would do, especially if I want to combine things, I feel like you should use Google a lot right now. And what I would do is to find out what skill sets are typically used in product management and what is typically used in as a financial analyst. And then you look for the intersection, right? Mm-hmm. If you see the intersection, you know what is applicable on both ends. If you see what's different on both ends, then you can think about, okay, how would the skill set how can I translate what I use as a product manager into what I do as a financial analyst? And off the top of my head, you are in product management, Florence, right? Right? But I'm guessing you build products. And let's assume you maybe work, Mary, in the kind of industry that Ayodeji works in. And even Edward, by the way, where they build financial products for consumers, right? And you have knowledge of product management and you're in finance. For one, I think you would understand budgeting, right? And in products, you would have an idea of products of project management, I'm guessing, right? Florence, good. I feel like you're muted. I don't know why she's muted.
Please, can you unmute, Florence?
So I feel like if you have an idea of what is applicable on both ends, and it might not necessarily be that you're translating one thing into your current role, it might also be thinking of how you can add value to a role with knowledge you have of another sector or of another career altogether. So if you are, for example, in Ayodeji's business line, and you feel like, okay, you understand how to build products, you might be needing to work with, you don't work as a product manager in AfroInvest, but you understand product management or something, right? You can have cross-functional communication or conversations with that team on his side of the business. And in sense of building cross-functional relationship, you have an idea of how that works already. So bring it into the other role you're also doing and think of how you can enhance business value in that sector. It might not necessarily be that you're doing the same job in the same place, both ways. I might not necessarily be that you're doing something that is tied to the work you're doing in one company. I'm not sure how you intend to do both of them, but whatever. But think of how you can drive, you can introduce a product idea or something and make it as a 10% of your time you are dedicating to something else in the business. Maybe like Mr. Ayo, they will carry you from a finance analyst role and tell you, oh yeah, we need your help in so and so place, and they move you there and you get to do some other kind of work that just makes work a bit more interesting every day. So the point I'm trying to make is don't restrict yourself to following your JD exactly, right? Think of how you can take one knowledge into a different field. How it can improve the other stuff you do in the different fields. But really, Google is your friend here. Find where it intersects. Florence, your hand keeps going up. I feel like you want to say something, but I'm not sure.
Please, can we unmute Florence? Florence, are you able to unmute yourself?
It says no.
Miss Oma, please, can you unmute Florence? Okay. Babatunde, can you please unmute Florence?
Okay. I think I'm never going to mute myself again. I've been meaning to say something since. But yeah, Onyeka really, she perfectly explained or captured what I want to say. But I want to give examples. So, for example, I studied economics. I never got the chance to use my economics degree to work as a financial person. But oops. So Zoom is telling me to put my hand down. Sorry about that. But there are some skills, transferable skills that I've taken from economics into product design, into product building, into UI UX generally. So an example is analytical thinking. So in economics, we're taught to understand maybe complex systems, we're taught to identify patterns, we're taught to make data-driven decisions, we're taught to study market trends, customer behaviors. This was something in school. I don't know if that's what it is in reality, but in school, we're taught to really study the market trends, customer behavior in relation to like certain policies that has been set in the financial world. So me paying attention to how we were taught to spot all those behaviors and patterns, I brought that into product design. So in product design now, I now understand how to ask the right questions so I know my users' needs. Because I think in 300 level, we had a task where you have to come up with like a survey or a questionnaire and ask people questions tied to your assumption or test your assumption or test your hypothesis and create results. So that workflow of research in economics, I brought that into product development, into understanding my customers' needs or my user needs, into spotting their behavior. So for example, in carbon, another interesting example is in carbon, we found out that, so carbon used to be pay later. So pay later was like the first loan company in Nigeria in those days. So it was heavily on loan, giving out loans. When we were transitioning into digital banking and I had to talk to customers and get their head or their expectation about the product and the direction we're headed, we found out that we have two groups of users. Like I was able to spot certain user behaviors based on the answers we got. So we found out that we have some customers that are they still want the loan and they still want to use the digital bank app. So that means they would buy into features like buy now, pay later for airtime or send money. So maybe send 50K to Onyeka, even if you don't have your 50K, and we'll come up with a loan repayment plan for you. So that's a way to like spotting opportunities or business opportunities based on user interview. And this is analytical thinking from economics that I studied in school. Another example is problem solving, as Onyeka said, like being able to understand complex problems. So in economics, we were taught how to address economic issues, optimize resource allocation, all those things that I don't know how it works practically, but I'm able to right now spot problems. So if in coming up with the products, this is our goal, this is our North Star for the product, but our customers are saying, this is where we really need you. So maybe if the North Star is we want a digital product, like I said, but talking to the customer, you know that they want a way to send money to somebody, but they don't have the money. So how can we build something that works for them? So now for me now, I'm understanding the customer's need, I'm understanding the business goal, and I'm solving that problem solving. Another example is data analysis. So in economics, we're taught how to use Excel sheets to come up with those beautiful graphs, just so we can quantify or qualify our data. So the quantitative data we've gotten, so we can explain how certain trends can affect certain decisions if we make certain changes right now. That's in economics. With design, with something like that in design, we can study how users are using our products. So if you download the Carbon app, or if you download maybe the Shopware app, and maybe number of drop-offs in a particular flow. So why do we have those drop-offs? That's where problem solving comes back in, asking questions. Then lastly, communication skills. Sorry, remember you can mention communication. Yes, communication is so important. Before COVID, communication is beyond just words. Communication before COVID was beyond words. It was also like your body language, your facial expression. But right now, communication, you can say something by typing and it can be misinterpreted if not clearly communicated. So in economics, or while studying economics, we had to do like a bunch of visual presentation for a number of projects. So I brought that into product design. So if I'm trying to sell my idea, if I'm trying to articulate design decisions that were made and the reasons why those decisions were made and how that translates to business. So I try to find like a straight line summary of how if we do this, it will get us more customers. And if we have more customers, we'll make more money. So in one simple sentence, this is it. So yeah, analytical skills or analytical thinking, problem solving, data analysis, communication, all those things were things I unconsciously picked up when I was studying economics, but I see that they are transferable, and even a lot more skills that I don't think I have time to go into right now, but I see how they are transferable into product design that I'm doing right now. So that can also be translated, even if you want to be a product manager, you can see yourself solving problems, doing analytical thinking, communicating correctly to all the stakeholders in the company. So I hope that answers your question. I think Mary, was that Mary?
Yeah, I think it does. Thank you so much for your time, Florence. And I want to use this opportunity to thank all our panelists, our amazing panelists. This has been what we had in mind when we decided to have this program beyond the classroom, to have conversations that have very lasting impact on people's career. Information is everything. And we believe that with information like this, people can make very, very strong decisions about their career. And we can see that in the quality of questions that people have asked around their work and their career and what they should do part-time. So thank you very much, Ayodeji. We really, really value your time. Thank you very much, sir, for taking our time despite your very busy schedule. Thank you very much, Edward Popoola. We hope that we are going to be able to get you when we call you again. Thank you very much, Onyeka, Okonkwo, for bringing in your insights from, all the work that you've done. I read one of your posts around how you started a job with a salary of 20,000 around, how you grew along the line. So thank you for bringing all of those in here. And thank you, Florence, for bringing your insights from economics background down to where you are right now and how you're able to inspire us today. If I had no career path, I probably would have chosen tech today. But I mean, it is what it is. Thank you very much, everybody, for your time. Thank you very much, our very patient audience. Let me put it that way. Let me also, use this opportunity to talk about EduBridge a little and what we are doing to maybe inspire people to be able to have a very solid career in finance and in data. So, we've heard a bit about finance and data. So if you're interested in data science, data engineering, we have a program that is upcoming this July, and we are currently taking applications. So you can go to our website, www.edubridgeacademy.com, and put in your application for the data program, and we're going to reach out to you. We also have July 22nd to 20th, we're going to start the finance and consulting analyst program. If that looks like something that you are interested in, you can just apply to on our website, and we're going to get into the next cohort. It's a beautiful program, and it's really, really impactful. So thank you very much, everyone, for your time. Babatunde, thank you very much for also joining in to anchor this program. Do you have one or two things to tell us before we close, or do you want to just close the program? Babatunde. All right. So thank you very much, everyone. God bless you, and see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.